kinda got caught by one of those guys. He knows I know, Jensen. If I give you the code, they'll know I talked. Call me negative, but I can't think of a nice outcome to that.
So, he's not going to give us the code.
That's all I need for now.
Now, I want to point out that the thing is, though, if you go ahead and augment yourself, get the Casey Augs for social interaction, which is an interesting aug, by the way. I'm actually here. Let me go ahead and pull it up. No. Wait a minute. Yeah, here it is. So if we view it, analyze people and persuade them, right? Well, okay, let's go with this. So you can see here, I'm not going to read through this, but you can go ahead and pause it here and read through it. But the point is, this is like they call it Casey, the computer-assisted social interaction enhancer. I mean, this is something that like registers, pulse rate, breath, eye reactions. Basically, it's a combination polygraph and psychophysiological response analyzers, they say there. I mean, extremely sophisticated, but you're bordering on almost, well, maybe not reading people's lines, but definitely being able to read them, read their reactions very, very well, and then manipulate them based on what their subconscious physical reactions tell you they're susceptible to as far as manipulation. So here's the thing that comes with it, and this is automatic. See, I mean, there's no upgrade cost to it. So once you activate the case, you get the emotional intelligence enhancer anyway, which combines the optical polygraph, the personality analyzer, and synthetic pheromone propagator, which actually is it's releasing bioengineered pheromones of a specific type that they're susceptible to. I will go ahead and get this sooner or later. When I played through before, I grabbed it. You can use it on Case, except it's not. You don't really get that much with him. But like with the officer in charge of the desk at the police station, it works pretty well on him, and it probably works pretty well on various other people. But at any rate, I guess mainly I just wanted to point it out. I guess there is an achievement with respect to that officer at the desk at the police station, which we'll eventually get to. But of course, I already unlocked the achievement. So, but again, since I'm playing non-lethal, the Casey AUG is something I'm probably going to want to take. So we're going to complete this right now.
Welcome. I'm glad you came. I can never properly repay you for what you did, of course, but I would like to help out any way I can.
What'd you have in mind?
There's a gentleman named Sarah who works in the area. His business causes him to move around quite a bit, but at the moment he's occupying an apartment in a building on Earl's Court. If you mention my name, he'll give you a discount on his wares. Deals in, well, he's a gun runner.
How does a guy like you know someone like that?
Growing up in my old neighborhood, you learn pretty quick to cultivate certain types of relationships.
So, here's a trophy.
I can never thank you enough for what you did.
So there's not a whole lot in here, but if we go in here, I think they have at least one ebook. Nano-Augmentation, Pipe Dream or Theory for the Future by Hugh Darrow. Excerpt from a paper in Neo Nature, September 2022. And again, Neo Nature, that would be like, New Nature. It'd be like the future publication of Nature magazine and Nature.com, which actually is published by Nature Publishing Group, which I have a link to regarding the neuroplasticity. I just wanted to repeat that, for people who maybe missed it in earlier vids. But this is just kind of interesting. So, I mean, the very high-profile academic journal, or well, actually journals for the whole publishing group. They publish all sorts of different academic journals. But anyway, we've been throwing around the word nanotechnology for decades, and yet despite all our best efforts, we are only inching closer to that molecular scale frontier when in fact we should be racing toward it. In the decade to come, the enhanced beings, post-humans who are our progeny, will look at the mechanical devices we rudely bolted onto our living flesh or buried inside our gray matter, and they will mock us for our crudity. They will look upon what we have made with the same curiosity, the same disinterest, as the pilot of a VTOL helicopter would look upon an ox cart. The future of human augmentation lies in the small, in fact, the smallest. In the next 30 years, the molecular frontier will be broken, and true nanoscalar reprogramming and biological reorientation will be possible. There will be no more tedious instances of severing limbs to replace them with steel proxies. We will drink in these tiny machines, inject them, and be transformed. Now, I mentioned this earlier. Of course, the first game, that's what it's all about, is, the character you play, J.C. Denton, in the first game, as well as his brother Paul, were the prototypes for nano augmentation. And it's very interesting. Look at what he's saying there. You'll just drink the nanomachines. You will, inject them. But even more than that, I want to point out that there is, well, let me put it this way. During the mid-20th century, a great deal of research was being done by America, as well as other countries, particularly like the Soviet Union, on biological warfare. Because a lot of people are aware of nuclear bombs because, well, they're really obvious, and also because, 2 bombs were dropped on Japan to end World War II. However, the fact is that if you talk to people who are really sort of like up on military strategy and stuff, that's not what you want to do. You do not want to physically bomb some enemy because that's very, very inefficient, it's expensive, and most importantly, you're destroying the infrastructure that the enemy has already built up. Instead, the idea was, well, if you went ahead and just released a biological agent that your soldiers and your native population was immune to, then and that wiped out the enemy population or nearly wiped them out, then the whole infrastructure would be intact, and you could just basically walk into the country, right? And in fact, this is based on the ideas of history. Because, again, a lot of people historically, take America, for example, the European settlers who came to America and interacted with the Native Americans, a lot of people think of the decimation of the Native American population as something that was carried out by the U.S. Army, and it was like an active, military campaign. To some extent it was. I'm not going to lighten that at all. But actually the far greater impact was due to biological contamination. There would be people, European settlers, traders, who would trade in good faith. But the thing is that they brought diseases from Europe that, obviously the settlers, they were immune to those diseases because the diseases had already run rampant over Europe, and whoever survived, they were the ones who were immune. But a lot of, 3/4 of the population got killed or whatever from this disease or from that disease. But when they came to America, the Native Americans, they didn't have those immunities. So, a trader could be interacting with a local tribe and, completely by accident contaminate them. And if it was a really contagious disease, like maybe smallpox, or something like that, it could wipe out not just that tribe, but depending on the incubation period of the disease, I think smallpox was one of the most severe offenders, although there were probably some others. But, if somebody from the tribe went to another tribe, if the incubation period was a couple of days, pretty soon you could just have the disease transfer from one tribe to another, to another, to another, and before you know it, whole tribes were wiped out because they had no defenses. And that's the kind of idea that biological warfare started from. And getting back to nanotechnology, the point is that, well, guys, you know, I mean, how about this? Rather than, you know, finding some naturally occurring organic agent, what if you actually created an artificial agent, either an organic one or one that could interact with organic systems? That obviously would be highly effective. You know, obviously, again, assuming that you could make sure that your own people were immune, which is part of the problem, of course. You know, but anyway, that really would be, you know, equivalently effective, and it really has been proposed, or I guess, you know, the point I'm trying to make is that the scientific community was very split on this when it became aware that this kind of research was being done in America anyway. And like Fort Detrick in Maryland is one place that is heavily oriented toward that type of research. I will point out to you that you can see this kind of thing if you watch the original Andromeda Strain movie from the 1960s. You can see it again in the more recent film, Outbreak, which is an adaptation of a Robin Cook novel. You know, where the research is still there. Fort Detrick is still there, but, you know, whoopsie, that was my mistake. Got carried away there. Sorry about that. See, I'm talking and trying to run around staircases at the same time. But, let's see where it puts me. Oh, you gotta be kidding. All the way back here? That's just stupid. Whatever. Out of the way. Good grief. But, anyhow, yeah, so, like, in Outbreak, you have Dustin Hoffman and, Kevin Spacey, you know, the characters that they play, they're actually working at Fort Detrick. And that's, you know, the kind of research they're doing, although obviously in the film, you know, what they're basically saying, you can probably find some more information out by looking online, but the research that's being done is not intended to be used for offensive biological weapons capabilities. It's being done, you know, for defensive purposes. Yeah, I'm not so sure that I'm you know, like, exactly comfortable